Hi, everybody. I'm Frank Stanisci of Candid Frank Live, where they'll find us airing our views here on the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now, joining me as usual is Aaron William Freeland. Aaron, how you doing, buddy?
Doing pretty good, Frank. How are you?
Well, I was having a nap and the girlfriend rudely interrupted me to say, "Don't you have a show at 6 o'clock?"
Ha ha ha
And
ha.
I said, "Oh." I turned off my alarms because, as you know, the shows were canceled at the end of the last week. So, long story short, I didn't have my alarms. So, I was napping, having a good old time napping. And then I got woke up. And this is the problem with getting old.
Well, I mean, the good thing is you're getting the sleep in when you can. So that's always important. Um,
Yeah.
Before we get rolling on this, just a couple quick programming notes for our friends out there. Wednesday's show will only be a half an hour, as will Friday's Leafs Talk. Hope to get back to our regularly scheduled 60 minutes, well, 50 minutes basically in the hour next week. Just wanted to get that out there.
All right. We got that straight.
Perfect.
50, 52,
Yeah,
55.
somewhere in that neighborhood.
Somewhere around there. Okay, let's talk about Canada and what you need to know about measles.
So, just as a heads up, I'm sure some of you may have heard that measles is now making a comeback. It had been eliminated since 1998, but it is making a comeback globally due to declining rates of routine childhood vaccinations. Some due to missed appointments during the COVID-19 pandemic. However, also based on misinformation that's being spread around about the MMR vaccine and what's actually in it. Um, just as a heads up, people, if there are a group of 100 people who have never had a measles infection, 95% of them will need to get vaccinated in order to ensure herd immunity. It is possible to be infected from contaminated air up to 2 hours after an infected person has left a room. So it's got to be high to prevent outbreaks. Typically, these are all done before 5 years of age. Infants as young as 6 months can be vaccinated safely. Um, just Measles isn't just a thing that you get and you get over with. There are um, long-term complications that can ensue, including pneumonia, encephalitis, swelling of the brain. Pregnant women who catch it could experiencing miscarriages, premature labor, and have infants with low birth weights. So it's important that you make sure that you're up to date with all of your shots. Your volume appears to be off, Frank, but
I got it.
there we
What
go.
about the sanctimonious ad that Metrolinx is posting?
Oh, Metrolinx has been going on about how you know they're doing the right thing by kind of putting out these ads saying, "Hey, we're doing a whole bunch of stuff here to try to fix things up." Um, and one of the ads, one of the there are a couple women who are discussing the transit situation. They're like, "This Metrolinx construction is killing me." They proceed to list then all of the reasons why construction is necessary, like better transit and fewer cars. Those ads kind of came across as a little bit snarky, sanctimonious, and obnoxious. They also spent $2.25 million on that to sort of tell us we were wrong and that what they were doing was right. Metrolinx has since pulled all of those ads from their YouTube channels. Um, so it's one of those sort of we kind of made an oopsie when we did this sort of thing, and we acknowledge that now. But the PR damage has unfortunately already been done.
So apparently, there's a petition being put together, a recall of Mayor Gudek, and apparently it's arriving soon in Calgary.
Local, yeah, more than 514,000 signatures had to have been collected by April 4th in order to force the mayor from office. That number is higher than the number of Calgarians who voted in the last municipal election. But Landon Johnson has been collecting signatures to recall Gondek since early February. Um, they have 45 days to verify that it's actually been done. And obviously, people aren't very happy with the job that Mayor Gondek has been doing. Uh, I mean, more power to Naheed Nenshi for taking himself out of politics to move on to bigger and better things. But this is one of those things where it's sort of like the people have seen the job that you're doing and they're not happy.
Let's go to Edmonton, and they're asking for public input into seating in their transit.
That's right. They're ordering 53 new LRT trains for the capital and metro lines by the end of June. Individuals who are interested in providing their input um, have until March 19th to provide their opinion on three potential seating layouts for the new trains. Safety, accessibility, comfort, and capacity are the main considerations for the seating layouts. Um, they're actually technically replacing about half of the fleet so far. So this is an opportunity for individuals to weigh in on how they'd like the trains to be constructed. I think it's very good to engage the public in this sort of thing because public transit is a large part of life in pretty much every Canadian city. So hop on it,
Absolutely.
folks.
Let's talk about space and the plan in advance. Eclipse glasses are hot sellers ahead of rare celestial event.
That's right. There is actually going to be a solar eclipse on April 8th. Um, as we get closer to the date, more people are saying that they're interested in doing it. If you are going to be watching and you happen to own welding goggles, you have to make sure that they're at least shade level 15 to properly protect yourself. Um, there are individuals who are selling pairs. I actually found a retailer in Quebec who's actually selling them for $4.95 a pair. Um, they are apparently approved for that sort of thing. The totality in continental North America is going to start in Mexico's Pacific coast in the morning before it crosses through the United States and into southern Ontario, Quebec, and New Brunswick in PEI. It'll be heading off the coast of Newfoundland at about 5:16 p.m. local time. You can actually go on Discover the Universe or Eclipse Quebec to find retailers who are selling certified glasses. Um, but yeah, order them now if you haven't got them. I myself have a few pairs on order. They should be here by March 25th. Barring any major snafus by Canada Post, we should have them on hand well before April 8th.
So apparently, there's an independent Russian vote monitor that says the election was a mockery.
Yeah, when opposition candidates aren't permitted to run, that does tend to put a crimp in what you're calling a democracy.
Well,
Um,
dying before the election also might be
that
in
does tend to
jail.
that does tend to do that too. There was apparently one of Navalny's right hand men was also assaulted by an individual with a hammer outside his apartment. Um, there is a group called Golos, which translates from Russian as voice, saying that the 3-day election that ended on Sunday could not be considered genuine because the campaign took place in a situation where the fundamental articles of the Russian constitution guaranteeing political rights and freedoms were essentially not in effect. There were reports of soldiers um, deliberately poking their heads into voting booths to see if people had spoiled ballots. There were numerous people that broke into polling stations to set ballot boxes on fire or to dump blue or green ink into the ballot boxes that were already there to receive votes. At least 74 people were arrested across Russia on Sunday's final day of voting, according to OVD info.
I don't know. I mean, can we really assume that soldiers' threats of guns, threats of jumping or being thrown out a window or jumping out a window, dying, that those things might impact on how people vote? I mean, people will vote the right way because it's the right thing to do. Stuff like that. The chance of dying by voting. I mean, one has to have a stiff spine. I'm kidding. It's just ridiculous. It really is ridiculous.
No, at this point here, they've basically declared the election for Putin at this point, which means he's going to be in power until 2030 at this point. So, um, it's one of those things where As much as we'd like to see a different outcome, the election has been set up in a certain way that only one candidate really is viable.
Well, the other piece of news that you don't hear very often, that which, if you can fact check me if you like, anybody, the Russian economy is not necessarily bouncing back, but I think it's better than creeping back. And the reason is that they're an economy strictly based on oil and gas, and they can do what they want. And there are Russian people who support what Putin wants. And all we need do is look around within our close vicinity, that people who believe that the government and the people in the government should be able to do whatever they want, and they should have a right to disagree with whatever Supreme Court happens to be in that country, disagree with allowing people. Not anyone should be allowed to run in politics. They should be approved by the present day government. I mean, that's what you're up against in a lot of places. But I think, Aaron, what it boils down to is there are people who have power, and that power is based on convincing other people that they're doing a good job and they're good for them. Even if they're bad, as long as the people don't think that they're bad for them, it's okay. That's what I'm learning in my old age.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks out there who, as long as it's not happening to them, they don't particularly care.
And the
And
scary part for me, mentally speaking, for these people is they think because they're not hearing that anyone's coming after them, it won't happen. This is the part people don't understand is, there's that old axiom, that old saying when they talked about, the Germans, the Nazis first went after the Jews and then went after the next group of people, then went after the Polish people. There's a list. And if you're not on that short list, everyone else is going to end up being subservient to the people in power. And that's basically what happens. So I don't know. We're in the shadow of a country that in this next election, the politics of that country may change. And don't kid yourself. Here in Canada, we can be easily swept into the vortex that is the U.S. political system.
no, it's this ideological creep, especially across borders when it comes to this sort of thing, which usually starts with dissatisfaction or perceived dissatisfaction. Um, one of the key things in setting up a fascist government would be to discredit scientists. And believe it or not, uh,
Judges.
a pandemic such as the one that we're still going through, because despite what people want to believe, it ain't over yet. Um, yeah, once you discredit the scientists, it makes it that much easier to take control of over everything else. You remove critical thinking from the equation, and you get into rage farming and fear mongering, and people, for some reason, seem to like that sort of thing.
Well, to your point, the idea is to end up there. You have to eliminate the threat of people who guard the truth, guard fact. Once that happens, anybody who makes it or acts on the truth is a danger to, a fascist, because the truth is the enemy. The lies they must permeate society. And the dissatisfaction that you're talking about, Aaron, is the problem is that the capitalistic system has has wandered away from being beneficial to the average Joe and Jane. That's really the root of the problem, is that, even, democracy doesn't guarantee that if you work hard, you'll be rewarded. That's the problem. There was a time when that was the case in your father's or your grandfather's generation, my father's, generation, where if you worked hard, you were able to earn enough money to have a house. And once you own a home, your expenses are much less. And therefore, your pay becomes, you get more bang for your buck. and we don't have that enough in North America, and that's why this kind of stuff is going on. So either way, it should tell people who believe in capitalism that if a lot of people are turning their back on capitalism, I'm not going to tell you why you should listen. You should just listen and try to figure out what is upsetting people so much that there's a preference for these, people who trade in lies, hate, and basically um, violence. It's sad, but that's the thing. I believe in democracy, but I'm telling you, I'm not happy the way the democratic system is working in 2024, and there needs to be a change where people feel, because in democracy, the idea of democracy, I think, is that we're all in a position to be able to be satisfied with our lives if we're willing to work hard. That's what you got to do. To get ahead, you got to work hard. But it seems people can't work hard enough. And I think that's what's wrong with capitalism today.
Well, and that's part of the way that capitalism is set up is that you keep people working until they can no longer work.
Mhm.
So
Well, you have to, I'm just a firm believer of the carrot, but if you don't offer the carrot, some people like the stick because they don't think they're going to get hit with the stick. So that's the problem I have in the way things are working today, is that capitalism isn't benefiting enough people, and the vote reflects that, and that's the sad part of it. Let's go over to good news, and let's go over to the Blue Jays, who have been, good and bad, good and bad, good and bad. Well, they brought a hometown boy back, and first pitch, Joey Votto gets a home run, and predictably, and when I say predictably, we talked about this when he came on, injuries are going to be a factor.
indeed, and I know that he's 40. I know that he spent 17 years with the Cincinnati Reds, where he's a six-time All-Star and got National League MVP honors in 2010. But um, he did manage to smoke a home run on his first at bat in the first pitch that he saw. Uh, apparently it went off the top of the fence. The Phillies argued it. Sorry, yeah, there we go. The Philadelphia Phillies argued it, but unfortunately there was no replay, so the home run counted. That's a good start for him. He accidentally stepped on a bat in the dugout, however, and rolled his ankle. Um, so he came out of the game, but it wasn't intentional. He was scheduled to play for 5 innings, and he got 3 at bats. So
He got a home run.
hey,
Well,
that's important.
hopefully that rolled on ankle gets better real soon. He'll be spending some time in the ice water. Riders sign former Notre Dame quarterback Jack Cohn.
Now, Cohn, for those of you who know, signed with the Indianapolis Colts as an undrafted free agent after the 2022 NFL Draft. He attended camp with the Colts before joining the San Antonio Brahmas of the XFL. He went on to play 8 games for the Brahmas, throwing for 1,403 yards and 6 touchdowns. He had tryouts with the Niners and the Seahawks. He played his senior season at Notre Dame after transferring from Wisconsin in the spring of 21. He played 13 games for the Fighting Irish, earning 3,150 yards and 25 touchdowns. So that is yet another offensive weapon that the Riders have. They seem to be refilling the cupboards, and I'm not entirely upset by that. That franchise deserves a little more success than they've had in the past few years.
Yeah, they do. Let's talk about the Ticats, and they signed 6 American players.
Yeah, so they signed defensive back Caleb Biggers, quarterback Harrison Frost, linebacker Aaron Hansford, receiver Juan Carlos Santana, not that one, running back Marcus Cooper, and offensive lineman Quentin Barrow. Biggers spent time in the NFL with the Cleveland Browns. Frost played 2 seasons at the University of West Georgia, where he completed 548 of 880 passes. Hansford spent time with the Cowboys in 2022. Santana most recently spent rookie camp with the NFL Seattle Seahawks. Cooper played 27 games over 2 seasons with the University of the Incarnate Word, registering 311 carries for 2,016 yards. And Barrow most recently spent time with the NFL's Buffalo Bills. So these are all quality prospects that Hamilton has added.
Absolutely wonderful for them. Good for them. Let's talk about the Elks, and they had American Jeremiah Jackson. And
Now, Jackson Trotter played the 2023 season at Davenport University, where he racked up 37 tackles, 9 for loss, 3 sacks, and 3 pass deflections with the Panthers. He finished tied for the team lead in tackles for loss and was fourth on the team in tackles, while being named an All Great Lakes Intercollegiate Athletic Conference honorable mention. Prior to joining the Panthers, he attended Fort Hays State University, leading the team in tackles for loss and sacks. He also played at East Coast Los Angeles College from 2019 to 2021. So good bolster for their defensive line. All the best to him.
Coach St. Louis of the Montreal Canadiens is in the middle now of a leave for family reasons.
Yeah, what has been a challenging season for the Montreal Canadiens has become even harder now that Martin St. Louis is on leave. He'll be absent from the team indefinitely for family reasons, and Trevor Letowski is going to be serving as head coach in his absence. This is a great opportunity for the Canadiens to step up. St. Louis has unfortunately a record of 25, 30, 0, and 11 in his third season. He replaced Dominic Ducharme on February 9th, 2022, and signed a 3-year contract extension that June. Letowski, who has made his head coaching debut in Calgary, is in his third season on Montreal's coaching staff. He was previously a head coach of the OHL's Windsor Spitfires.
Beautiful. Let's talk about the Habs and Flames. Backlund reaches a career milestone.
Yeah, Backlund scored his 199th and 200th career goals, all of them with the Flames, to become the second Swedish-born skater in franchise history to hit 200 and join Kent Nilsson. He's 35 years old and became the 11th player in franchise history to reach 200 goals. Bad news for the Habs, good news for him, and good news for the Flames.
Let's talk about the Sens and Brady Tkachuk.
So on Saturday, Brady Tkachuk scored a hat trick, got past the Islanders 4-3 in overtime. Ridley Grigg also scored for Ottawa. Now, this is the third game in a row that Ottawa has won after being 0-7 in their previous games. Bo Horvat tied the contest for the Islanders on the power play with 38 seconds left in regulation. He was then called for holding at 3:05 in overtime, and Tkachuk scored with just 24 seconds left on the clock.
Perfect. Let's talk about the Jets and Tyler Toffoli. He scored twice. That pickup is a good one.
Yeah, he's been a fantastic ad for them.
For everybody he's been added to.
Well, pretty much. The unfortunate thing is the Blue Jackets just keep getting run over by pretty much everybody this season. It's unfortunate. He had 2 goals and an assist. Nikolai Ehlers had a goal and an assist. Kyle Connor, Logan Stanley, and Vladislav Nemesnikov also scored. Sean Monahan added 2 assists, and Connor Hellebuck stopped 30 shots for the Jets, who pulled even with the Dallas Stars and Colorado Avalanche and topped the Central Division. They had a bit of a hiccup a little earlier in the season that dropped them out of top place temporarily, but they're working on clawing their way back up there.
Oilers lose to the Avalanche. Luukkonen scores last-second goal.
This is one of those situations where you thought the Oilers definitely would have had it. Sorry, but he scored with a half second remaining in overtime. It's one of those so close moments. Sean Walker had both goals in regulation for the Avalanche. Sorry, and Alexander Georgiev had 32 saves. Warren Fogley and Sam Carrick scored for the Oilers, who had just come off winning 2 in a row. Connor McDavid was held without a point, ending his home point streak at 26, and Stuart Skinner stopped 40 shots.
Let's talk about those Canucks who lost against Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals. Look out. They're making a move for the playoffs, Aaron. They're coming out of nowhere. There's a few teams. Buffalo. It's starting to get interesting there in the lower half of the standings in the Eastern Conference of the National Hockey League.
Yeah, we're looking at Tampa Bay and Detroit are actually 2 teams that are currently fighting for a wild card, with the Washington Capitals right behind. Now, Ovechkin definitely helped. It was a low event game. There wasn't a lot of offense. There were a lot of missed shots and not a lot of interior play. Vancouver is 42-18-8. They're still atop the Western Conference standings. But those 2 points were absolutely crucial to Washington, who had 32-25 and 32-25 and 9. now sit 1 point out of the final wild card berth in the Eastern Conference. So they've been making their move up the standings. They're 6-4-0 in their last 10, with a win streak of 2.
Absolutely, and they've done a good job. Well, okay, we got to talk about the Maple Leafs.
If we gotta.
You know what we're witnessing. Their loss in overtime against the Hurricanes. First of all, they always have problems with the Hurricanes. It seems. Um, Worse than that, their top guys just can't play well against these other teams that I think play really good playoff hockey. Um, they disappear. The big four that the Leafs have just can't make the kind of contribution they need to make in these big games, and your big players have to do that. Being ahead, what was it? 4-2. They were ahead 4-2, 3-1, I believe.
Yeah, 3
And
nothing and 4-2.
there you
So
go. And they
it,
end up losing in in a shootout. They lost in a shootout. I don't know what they want from the goaltending that the Leafs have, but they've got to be a little more helpful, and they've got to play a little better defensively, and they have to know how to protect the lead. Now, I don't know, is this like a weakness of the coach that he's unable to set the mood, if you will, on the Maple Leafs when they're ahead in the third period 4-2 and bring it home?
it seems to me to be a lack of finish, and it's not. I don't think it's really anything that can be directly blamed on the coach, because he's not the one that's on the ice doing the scoring. You have to rely on your big four to eventually be able to do that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
Interestingly enough, the only other team that the Leafs have lost to during the regular season by allowing 2 goals in less than 2 minutes was also the Hurricanes about 14 years ago. So
So,
history does unfortunately tend to repeat itself.
well, and it definitely kind of shows, what's going on, for sure. Um, the Leaf defense. Okay, you've got a few new guys in there. Haven't been there long. 3 to be exact. Um, do you think do you think they're rounding into form, and do you think there's that they will be in the next few games starting to show that they can be a part of a shutdown defense? Because essentially, that's the reason they traded for who they traded, right? I mean, I think that's the point. The point is that they need to dominate the offenses when they're in their zone and put a blanket over them. And this game was not an example of that.
Now, I mean, they appear to be the dominant team through a lot of it. Joel Edmondson has been nice on the back end. They have him paired up with Lilligren. Simone Benoit and Jake McCabe are a decent pairing as well. Morgan Riley and TJ Brody just needs to stop. It's just something that's been proven time and again not to work. It's got to be something that gets corrected. Um, I mean, they do have Joel Edmondson on their second penalty kill unit, along with Timothy Lilligren, Bobby McMahon, and Connor Dewar. Um, but it's one of those situations where they got to come up with something better. This morning, during the morning skate, they actually had Bertuzzi, Matthews, and Holmberg together. They had McMahon, Domi, and Nylander together. Nyes, Tavares, and Robertson, and Duar, Camp, and Ryan Reeves on the fourth line. Uh, Unfortunately, Mitch Marner is still out with what's called a day-to-day high ankle sprain, and it's still day-to-day, and he's been going from day-to-day for the past little while. Looking at Kali Yarncroke, he's out. No word on how long it's going to be for that, but he was in a great deal of discomfort in the last game. So how this affects their lines going forward means that you're going to be relying on your depth guys to step up more and more.
Absolutely. The production message. So we're out at 6:39. 6:39. I have it as the
Okay.
time. Okay, so we'll just so we all agree on when we're going out. The Leafs have the goalie situation isn't really the problem. I think that's a safe
Yeah.
statement to make now. Now what we're talking about, and when we talk about the inability to defend with a 2-goal lead, this isn't something you just point. We've decided, at least you and I, in this conversation, it isn't the goaltender's fault. And I just want to make sure I make this clear. The defense is supposed to be better. I'm not saying it isn't, but part of making the defense better is what the offense does defensively, which is why, in my defense, uh, I'm not pointing at the coach that he's making a mistake or he's wrong, but the fact is, offense is something that players have naturally. Defense is something that players have to learn. And learning is what the coach needs to do, be a part of, allowing the players to learn and to work together. So, in that sense, I'm not blaming the coach. I'm just saying, who needs to do a better job? Well, it isn't always the obvious person who's fishing the puck out of the net, if you follow what I'm saying. Just because the puck comes out of the net, because it was just in the net, isn't the reason why it's in the net. In other words, the person taking the puck out of the net isn't always responsible for the puck in the net. And the Leafs have to learn that. I've seen through this season, I've seen it irresponsible. I've lauded Austin Matthews for his defensive play, in the past couple of years. But unfortunately, there have been too many times where it seems like he expended so much energy on the offensive side of the puck, he doesn't have enough left on the defensive side.
No, it seems to be very true. A lot of the players, unfortunately, seem to be sliding back into bad habits. Certain players are missing assignments in the defensive zone that they really shouldn't be missing. So, it makes things more difficult for the goalies, obviously. But it's part of the coach's responsibility to try to get them to stop doing what they're doing if they're doing it wrong. But I don't know if they're necessarily listening.
One of the most important aspects of being a good defensive player. Now, look, I'm not an NHL coach. I'm not anything close. But there are things, as someone who's watched hockey for a long time and listened to what the experts say, that is lacking with the Leafs. Sometimes it seems, Aaron, I don't know how you feel about it, when the Leaf offensive players and even their defensive players, it seems sometimes in their own zone, they lack the ability to have their head on a swivel. Do you know what I'm saying? They give away such great chances because they literally are not aware of a guy who's in a really good scoring situation or position.
Now that there seems to be a bit of defensive zone blindness, I think is what we're looking at. They get locked in on the puck, and they got locked in on the guys cycling in the corner, forgetting the guy that scored 30 goals so far this season, just waiting on the faceoff dot to have the puck fed to him, or they miss the defenseman sneaking in from the point, or there's just a complete breakdown and there's four Leafs behind the goal line. It's one of those really frustrating things.
That speaks to the biggest problem when a team has a problem defensively. They don't play as a unit. What ends up happening is they puck chase as a group, which leaves people free. So the point I'm trying to make is that the other thing that has to be instilled in the brains of a teammate and as a group is that we have to trust our teammate to do their job. So we're not trying to do their job or help them do their job and then therefore leave the guy back there 8 feet from the net and nobody checking him. That's
Yeah.
the point I'm trying to make. That's all of it that I've said. It's all in a nutshell. That's what it is. It's defensive responsibility.
No, and that's fair. A lot of times their defense looks like Timbit's defense. So, what are you going to do about that sort of thing?
What I just said is that coach them up. They're
Yep.
going to have to be coached better. That to me, that's historically I've been hard on Keith, but you also know I've grown to respect the results that he has had his fingerprints all over. But also, constructive criticism, I think is fair. And I'm not here to try and bash the Leafs or bash the coach. But the fact is, they need to be coached better because obviously they're not doing what they need to do defensively, which again, I repeat, is not a natural state. Like having offensive skills is more natural than defense. Defense is practice, perfection, and execution.
Well, now will be the time for Keefe to really earn the money that they're paying him. So we'll see if anything changes over the course of the
Absolutely.
next little while. And they've got a couple back-to-backs coming up back to back.
There aren't many coaches in the past few years that have a better record than him. So, we know that he's close. He's close to being able to be a Stanley Cup coach. Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Frank.
He's Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live, Aaron. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network for Candid Frank Live. Other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer. Please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. Ciao for now. Enjoy your week, folks.